Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. In this occasion, I want to give you some presentation about acquisition, the introduction of linguistic. First, this is our material about the acquisition. First, what is language? Second, what is acquisition language? Third, difference between language and parole. Fourth, the difference of L1 acquisition and L2 acquisition. First, let me introduce my team. First, my name is Senarendra Khairul Ahmad. And second, there's Joseph Yesaya and Revianti Triwira, and last Sartika Dwi Aryani. And welcome, and let's go to our presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Rivianti. I want to explain about definition of a language. In a simple definition of language is a tool to convey something that comes to the heart. However, language is further a tool for interacting or communicating tools. Language is used as a tool to convey ideas, thought, concepts, and feelings. In sociolinguistic studies, language can be used as a symbol and is arbitrary in the form of sound productive, diverse, dynamic, and most importantly human. Language is system, which means that language is formed by a number of components that have a fixed pattern and can be educated. Language have a system of sound symbols. These language symbols can symbolize something called meaning or concept. That is why it can be concluded that every sound or word has a meaning. What is language acquisition? Language is a very important part of life. Communication between people not only enable us to understand one another, but aids in developing relationship and allows us to communicate our purpose and plans. Language acquisition is one of the quintessential human traits because non-humans do not communicate by using language. Language acquisition usually refers to first language acquisition, which studies influence acquisition of their native language. This is distinguished from second language acquisition, which deals with the acquisition in both children and adults of additional language.
I'm Sartika Dwi Aryani. Here I will explain about key terms and differential between long and parole. In key terms, there are 4 points. The first, bubbling, inflection, intonation, and phonemes. Bubbling, the experimentation of sound by an infant tending to include recognizable words. And inflection, the modification of word grammatically to form different tenses or number. Example, cat, singular plus s inflection become cats, plural. Example again, walk present tense plus ed inflection become walk, past tense. Intonation, the rise and fall of voice when speaking enable difference between phrases. Example, question, exclamation, and continue. All use different intonation patterns. The last is phonemes, a small segment of sound. And differences between long and parole. Long, from French meaning language, and parole meaning speaking, are linguistic terms distinguished by Ferdinand de Saussure in his course in general linguistics. Long encompasses the abstract, systematic rule and convention of the signifying system. It is independent of and the expresses an individual user. Definition of long and parole. Long is the system of language. In other words, what we call grammar is basically long of the language, and for parole is result of speaking in the language, even though we share one language in one language. What we say is situation is different, so parole sentences is limitless while language system grammar structure is limited. Maybe just this from me, and the next slide will continue by the next person.
So basically, language acquisition is the process or our capability to perceive and comprehend language as well as to produce and use words to communicate. And there is two types of language acquisition. The first one is our native language. For example, we born in Indonesia and our native language is Bahasa Indonesia. Then there is second language acquisition or additional language besides our native language. And we can fluently communicate in both language. But there's still differences between them. So in this table, in this first table, we will tell you about the differences between L1 and L2 acquisition. And this table is based on the features. The first features is overall success. At the L1 acquisition, actually it happened when we born as a baby, and as a children we normally achieve perfect L1 mastery. And for the L2 acquisition, we usually learn as an adult, and as an adult learners are unlikely to achieve perfect L2 mastery. And we have to put attention in the fifth one, the instruction features. So in the L1 acquisition, we actually don't need instruction to learn the language, but for the L2 or the second acquisition, language acquisition, the instruction actually helpful and necessary. So it could be books or YouTube videos or maybe lectures or maybe internet. So when we learn, so in this table, basically you can recognize the differences between the first and the second language acquisition. And we also have the differences between L1 and L2 acquisition based on the stage. So in the next slide, we will tell you about the L1 acquisition stage. So the first stage is cooing stage. It happened in the age of 3 until 5 months. As a baby, we actually start to make a vowel sounds such as u, a, e, o. And at the second stage, we have babbling stage in the age of 6 until 10 months. Actually, we start to make a repetitive CV patterns such as gugu gaga, dedi, dada dudu. And in the next stage, we have one word stage in the age of 12 until 18 months. We actually start to saying a single words such as daddy or mommy. And in the next stage, we have two-word stage in the age of 18 until 20 months. So in this stage, we actually already starts to saying phrases. And in the next stage, we have telegraphic stage in the age of 24 until 30 months. So in this stage, we already start saying a full sentence, but not as perfect as adult, and we still make a grammatical errors. And the last stage is later multi-word stage. In this stage, we have vocabulary increase and no babbling, can understand everything said within hearing. So this is for the L1 acquisition stage. Let's move on to L2 acquisition stage. So actually there's only 5 stage. The first one is pre-production, or we can call it silent period. So in this stage, we know up to 500 vocabulary and we're not speaking yet in additional language. And the second stage, we have early production. In this stage, we start to speak phrases. And the third one, we have speech emergence. In this stage, we can communicate using simple question and phrases. And the fourth one, we have intermediate fluency. In this part, we can use sentence with more complicated structures, but still make frequent errors. And the last one, we have advanced fluency. So in this part, so the last stage of L2 acquisition is advanced fluency. So in this part, we actually can speak similar like the native speaker. And typically after 5 until 10 years of learning the language. And yeah, so there's the difference to acquisition based on the stage. And we're done. That's all for our presentation. Hope that will be useful for us to learn about language acquisition. And bye bye. Thank you guys.